How cool is that? It's a big boar. Ah. Wouldn't that be a great backdrop to share a few emails? Pretty cool to finally go out of my way to go, hopefully, film a grizzly bear and show you guys one. Finally happened. Well, what the hell? Might as well share a couple emails with the grizzly bear behind me. That'll go down as a first, won't it? At least now I got a solid excuse to look behind me while I'm reading every few seconds, right? Alright, here we go. Let me know if he's coming. Arkansas Bigfoot encounter. Hey Steve, I just asked you only use my first name, which is also Steve. I got an encounter to share with you and your listeners. It's probably not as interesting as most encounters you read, but it's real and very intense for me, even if no one believes me. It happened in September 2012 in central Arkansas. It was a month before archery deer season, whitetail, and I was out scouting and checking game cameras. Things started out normally. I made my way from camera to camera looking for deer signs. The land I hunt is private and barely under 200 acres. Only myself and two of my grown sons hunt in this land, but more times than not, it's just me. I would say the biggest part of the land is loblolly pine, open timber in places and super thick underbrush in others. There are 4 pastures and there's a section of huge open hardwoods, mostly giant white oaks, that fruit some of the largest acorns I've ever seen. The hardwoods are where I started. There are cattle on the land, so tons of cow trails that I walk looking for deer tracks as they walk these trails sometimes too. Look for deer tracks as they walk these trails sometimes too. I made my way out of the hardwoods and walked one edge of a pasture until I hit the section of open pines. Most of these pines are good, straight telephone pole quality trees, great for climbing stands. Eventually, the underbrush starts getting thicker and thicker, and if you're on a cow/game trail, it can be quite difficult to make much headway. As you go even farther into the thickets, the bigger pines are more spread out, and there are tons of different sized saplings of a large variety of trees, mostly sweet gum or golden amber trees. I would say the average thickness of these sweet gums at the head level would be about the diameter of a Louisville slugger. As I started getting close to this area, I felt that what many have sent in their encounters have said. I felt a sense of dread, like I was being hunted or stalked. My mind immediately thought black bear, though through the years we've seen a few, and then I thought about coyotes, but they would most likely be a rabid to consider attacking an adult. These thoughts came and went literally a second or two. I immediately knew it was something else. I didn't want to give in and accept that what I was thinking it could be. I was frozen in fear. I felt I should head to the truck and leave, but I still have a few more cameras to check. And I stood there for no less than 5 minutes. I finally told myself to get a grip before I had a heart attack, as my heart was beating out of my chest. It was then I started noticing several of these baseball bat diameter trees that were broken over. I'd estimate the breaks were around 10 feet up in the trees. I also noticed that the tops that were broken over all pointed at me, and they were made a half circle in front of me. Okay, so now I'm legitimately freaked out. I'm seriously waiting for the heart attack. The sense of dread is now completely overwhelming, and even though I grew up hunting these woods, I found myself completely disoriented. I soon realized that I was on a cow/game trail. I also realized that either way I go on this trail, that I will come out in one of the pastures. And I had the clarity to know where I was. If I could just make it to any of the pastures, I would know what direction to go. As I contemplated whether to go forward or turn and go the other way, I heard something that jarred my whole system. Okay, I'm not reading as smooth as I can because I know I got a big grizzly bear right behind me, alright? So bear with me. The dread completely disappeared and curiosity took over. What I heard was a child crying, not a baby necessarily, but a toddler maybe. Any feeling of fear was gone. Now it's just curiosity and concern about this kid that must be lost in the woods. I'm guessing the cries are maybe 50 yards ahead, and I take a few steps. The woods in front of me exploded with snapping limbs and timber shaking, and holy crap, something is coming my way. Suddenly there he was. The cause of dread and fear was standing right in front of me. I say he because, trust me, there was no doubt. There was no doubt about his manhood. I have to say that for the most part, most descriptions fit perfectly with this dude. Had to be a 4-foot shoulder span, legs at least as big as round as my torso. I'm 5'8", 220 pounds. Definitely a body rippling with noticeable muscles, but no six-pack abs. In fact, I'd say he had a bit of a belly. Jet black, shiny hair all over, except for what skin you would see on a bearded man's face. Little stare down there. The hair seemed to be less dense on his feet and at the top of his hands. His skin color reminded me of the color of charcoal gray pencil. Not the skin color of a black man or any other race I've ever seen. Dark charcoal gray is the best I can describe it. My house has 8-foot ceilings, and he was easily that tall, if not a little more than that. Okay, so this is my take on what I saw and what I didn't see. What I saw was a massive man. This is no ape. No half ape, half man. There's absolutely no doubt. I'll even say this. He was actually a fairly good-looking man. And yeah, not a really noticeable neck. I never noticed any odor. Enough of the description, and back to the story. So he has just run up and stopped right in front of me, 10 yards max. So we eye one another for maybe 5 seconds, and then he slowly turns and looks behind him. Holy crap, there's another one. I'm guessing 6'6", noticeably smaller than he was. This one was about 20 yards further behind him, and although I'm not positive, I'm guessing it was a female. I say this because, although I never saw a juvenile with it, the crying I had heard hadn't completely stopped, and I'm pretty sure this was Mom walking away with a toddler. As soon as she started to take off, the big boy looked back at me. He then raised an arm and pointed, not at me, but as to say, I needed to leave. That's crazy. That's intense as hell. I know that's what he was telling me. As I walked away, my surroundings started becoming familiar again. At this point, I wasn't scared as much as I was just uneasy. I made it to my truck and headed home. I didn't sleep at all that night. This is the first I've spoken about it. I know this sounds stupid, but I always felt if I said anything, he'd know. And somehow, I'd have to answer for saying something. Even as I tell this, the hair on my neck is standing up. I really think he knows. He's getting a little closer, isn't he? I still hunt there, but not nearly as much as I used to, no doubt. I definitely avoid that section of woods. I've been within 100 yards or so, but I feel I shouldn't go any closer. Although I'm sure they aren't always in that one little section, I feel like it's off limits to me. I've never seen a Bigfoot track out there. I've found broken trees since then, but I haven't felt like they were in the area at those times. Oh, the one I'm sure was female was more of a dark, rich brown color than black. I couldn't make out too many details or features on that one except for the height and color differences. Again, I could never make any out. Again, I never could make out the one that was crying. I completely believe they are another race of people. The whole sixth sense thing you talk about, I fully believe you're right. After experiencing those feelings, even before I saw him, they can tap into something we can't and bring feelings of fear and dread and disorientation. It has to be their first line of defense. I could say that I wouldn't mind seeing one again, but from like 100 yards away, and it would not be pissed off. I sure didn't get that warm and fuzzy vibe from him. Please use my first name only. Thanks, Steve. Harmon. Well, that's a pretty intense frickin' story, man, and very detailed. And I am absolutely glad and relieved for you that you managed to find us here and share your experience with everybody through this channel. You know you're not alone. And with the other channel combined, there's 6.5 million views a month and climbing, right? And 98 point something percent approval rate on the topic and the channels and the videos. So again, it is what it is. It's not going to go away. It's not going to stop. But at least we're getting people to speak openly and honestly, right? And don't forget, this topic is possibly one of the more easier topics to deliver to the people, to prove that we are being misled and lied to about not only the fact that these people exist, but many other things that are going on in this crazy world today, right? But anyway, there you go. I guess this will go down in the history of the first time I actually put my back to a wild, big male grizzly bear and shared with you guys some emails, or an email. What if I should chance doing another one? You notice he's slowly getting closer up here too, right? Not that he's going to attack me, and I definitely feel a little good having a fence between us, but he'd jump this fence like nothing. If he felt like it, he might. Yeah, he's not going to attack. Well, you never know. Definitely going to keep my eyes on him. Let's try another one. He seems pretty cool with it. Maybe he's listening. Hi, Steve. My name is Kevin. I live in East Tennessee. I preferably wish to be mentioned by my first name only, if that's all right with you. I came across your channel about a year ago, and I've been subscribed to you ever since. I'm sure I can speak for everyone when I say we appreciate the no BS attitude when it comes to getting an important point across. Keep up the amazing work that you do by sharing others' experiences, and I'd also like to give my sincere condolences on your dear friend Macaroni. Losing a family member is never easy, but what helped me cope with my own personal situations is realizing they are gone. They no longer have to suffer on this earth and can finally be at peace. Stay strong, my friend. And regarding your topic, stay strong, my friend. I appreciate those kind words, man. Thank you. Now, regarding the topic of Sasquatch, I've always had a very keen interest in the subject. Like you, I had stated like you had stated in previous videos, for one to gain knowledge, one has to seek the information on their own. It still baffles me when people think they can speak on certain things they have no knowledge in. My experience takes place in Roan Mountain, North Carolina, which is about, I'd say, an hour 30 or more to get to the campsite from my house location. We'd planned to stay there for the weekend, Friday to Sunday. The bone-chilling incident happened Saturday, mind you. I've been to this certain location once before, so this is our second time camping out there. I'd never had a fear of the woods prior to this camping trip. Friday was the usual, and it was an eventful day in the chilly months of spring. At night, the only thing we had were the clear skies and the fire. To give context, we were camped next to a river, and on the other side of the river was a mountain that had no trails or anything, just a very steep mountain hill. Saturday night comes, we had a large bonfire going. Friends and family that accompanied us, cooking food over the fire. We all began to laugh and sing around the fire. All was well until around 12:15 a.m. We were all interrupted abruptly by the worst kind of sound I've ever heard in my life. As I type this, I get goosebumps from remembering the incredibly unnerving feeling I got when we all heard it. Everyone stopped and listened as whatever was on the other side of the river up the mountain screamed. But before it let out a scream, it made this odd gargling noise, as if it were a man being slit by the throat and was choking on their own blood. It felt like a warning. What followed was a scream so loud that it echoed down the river and throughout the forest. Whoever made the sound must have had a lung capacity higher than the humans because it was way up the mountain. The chill ran down my spine cold as it faded away, and I realized that everyone was paralyzed from both fear and confusion. I remember you reading an account about how Sasquatch can imitate the sound of known animals. Well, this thing clearly sounded like a man imitating a goat because it sounded very faked, if that makes any sense. The scream lasted about 10 seconds and vanished. We were still and quiet, and the only thing you could hear was the rush of the river. Needless to say, no one slept that night. To this day, Steve, I'd yet to hear anything like it, and I hope to never hear it again. We left as soon as sunrise came Sunday morning. Furthermore, after this experience, I've read many odd experiences happening at Roan Mountain. Missing people cases, so strange they seem almost unbelievable. Thank you for your time, man, Kevin. All right, well, thank you, Kevin. Absolutely appreciate you sending that in. And I'm sure somebody from around that area has probably got something similar they've experienced as well, right? So not only me, but there's going to be other people that appreciate you coming forward with what you shared, what you experienced. So thank you very much for that, and make sure you stay safe. and share the knowledge openly with all the people that you care about, and especially the children, all right, if they're living near these things, okay? Okay, one more. Let me know if he's coming. Hey Steve, thanks for doing what you do to allow people to share their experiences as well to gain knowledge about the subject of Sasquatch, and feel free to share this if you think it's worth consideration. As a knower of these beings and a member of the Club of No Return, I can't help but question certain things about them using critical thinking. You know, I can't simply take a person's word as fact without first investigating the claim a bit and forming my own opinion, which is really only useful for my own understanding. I don't expect anyone to blindly accept any opinion of mine either. That said, there are many burning questions about these beings that, as yet, have not been answered to my satisfaction or curiosity. So I'll present this one as something to ponder for those who are smarter than I. Most who have seen them unmistakably admit that they are not apes, but that description isn't really that far off from a scientific perspective. Understand that humans are also part of the group of mammals on this planet that fall into the classification of primate, along with many other species that most of us common folk lump into the category of ape. Knowing this, along with the scientific fact that chimpanzees share a remarkable nearly 99% of DNA with humans, it's easy to see why some people believe this creature to be an animal and not a people. This leads me to question just what it is that differentiates apes from us humans in the minds of ordinary non-scientist people. I think that some would argue the difference lies in societal structures. But when you look at chimpanzee society, you find that they too have a complex structure, albeit seemingly crude compared to that of our own. Others might say that it is the use of tools that separates us, but has also been documented that some chimps, not all, do in fact use rudimentary tools for the purpose of gathering sustenance. I can imagine that there are those who would argue that language is the most important difference between humans and chimpanzees, but language comes in many forms, not merely the spoken variety. After all, sign language was created by humans for those who cannot hear, correct? Let's not forget about the written languages, which date back millennia, and all the aforementioned are forms of communication, which seems to be more important than language. And I'm certain that even chimpanzees communicate with one another. I think the thing that I question more than anything is if these beings are indeed a people, how and why have they seemingly been left behind in the continual development that humans enjoy? How is it that if they are a people and not animals, have they not, as far as we know, advanced beyond the apparent Stone Age they currently exist in? Actually, I'm not even sure that they are that advanced technologically speaking. I mean, seriously, the human Bronze Age began around 300 BC, in which humans discovered the tools and weapons fashioned that would make living easier, from minerals found in the rock and in the soil. Prior to that, humans were at least sharpening and crafting stones into all sorts of different tools, which is much different than an ape, or even an otter, using a rock to smash open a mussel shell. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to start an argument here, I'm merely trying to use critical thinking to satisfy my curiosity. The short answer for most knowers would be that they are successful as they are and therefore don't need further development in their world. But wouldn't the same hold true for humans? Actually, I tend to think that maybe humans can't help but to develop technology. Even the most remote tribes found in the most remote jungles developed from living in caves and catching food with their bare hands at some point, right? Even those people have developed tools and weapons to make surviving in their environment easier. For example, spears, bow and arrows, and poison darts. Why and how did these remote tribes of people develop beyond scratching at logs for grubs, catching fish with their bare hands, and living in caves? I don't think it was a conscious effort on their part. I think they just stumbled onto things and explored the possibilities. So why haven't the Sasquatch done the same if they are a people? See, things that make me go, So to wrap this up, I tend to lean toward the current evidence pointing to perhaps they're neither apes nor people. At least in that way we identify people. That opens the door to the question of if they are neither, what are they? Are they even from this planet at all? Are they interdimensional beings? It seems that we enjoy comparing them to us only because they resemble us physically. The fact they seem to live in family groups and care for the young and look out for each other doesn't separate them from a whole host of animals on this planet. And neither does their ability to communicate, language or not. I just don't want to pigeonhole my thought process by claiming definitively that they are a people without more substantial data or a more clear definition of people. After all, do most humans classify what we call extraterrestrial beings as people? Hoping I've made at least a few people think a little deeper and more critically. But all of this is only the opinion of a regular guy who has seen things he can't explain. Thanks again for what you're doing. Together we may get to the bottom of this someday. Sincerely, Kansas Phil. Well, Phil, there's a whole bunch of great questions in there and ideas for certain. If you were to ask me personally what I thought, it's just something about a big grizzly bear staring at you from behind. But anyway, if you were to ask me what I thought, it's just my opinion, man, to add into the round table of knowledge from the thousands of first-hand eyewitnesses, especially the people who have heard these things speak to them through their mind. That's one big indicator for me that these things just aren't a simple chimpanzee that can get away with just digging for grubs or whatever, right? We've had some pretty incredible statements made by nuclear physicists who have seen these things breaking through the safety barriers of nuclear missile silos and facilities to only stand there and look up through the CCTV screens at them. And they don't know how they got in there, and they don't know how they got out. So you have all of these details that are being shared more and more and more that we just can't ignore, right? And for me personally, I don't even think about the known primates today when it comes to these beings, whether it be chimpanzees or gorillas. It's just, for me personally, it's not even in the equation now. And the fact that we're being lied to about so many things, cracking open the rabbit hole doors, they just get too numerous once you start digging and you start leaving this topic and shuffling off into numerous other ones that are absolutely alarming and are going down today on the face of the planet. Today. Very alarming. So, but you're right though, we will get down to the bottom of this. Everybody deserves to be heard. Everybody's opinions should be heard and considered. And we're definitely making progress. I don't care, we're definitely making progress, right? There's numerous new pieces to my puzzle that are falling into place basically weekly now. We'll get to the bottom of it, as long as we don't fall into that trap of being misled anymore, right? It's time we all thought for ourselves and learned honest knowledge from all the good, honest people on the face of this planet who deserve a crack at living to their max, including knowledge, right? But anyway, so this big boar grizzly bear behind me is chowing down on the new grass. This is typically a moose wintering zone right here, so he obviously doesn't have a moose down right now, otherwise you wouldn't see him out there. He'd be laying on it right now, guaranteed. And maybe what I'll do is I'll take the camera and I'll do a quick little 180 around here. I'll show you where I am. And I'll zoom in on Mr. Fuzzy Bear behind me one more time, and then I gotta get home. I think I got about 45 minutes to get home. I'm late. I got horses to feed. And again, I came all the way out here in hopes to get a good handful of emails shared and possibly show you guys a grizzly bear. I got a few emails shared, not as many as I wanted to, because I stopped at my buddy's place. You saw him before around the campfire with me when we did that one evening. And we ended up bullshitting for about 3 hours, and those were 3 hours that I was setting aside to read emails. And I should have just threw the camera up, but the topics we covered were not conducive to YouTube's control of narrative. But we did agree that we will throw the camera up and bring in another individual, and we're gonna do some serious talking. And that video that we do that evening will have to be on the Rumble or the BitChute channel, whichever one I'm gonna use. And we're gonna start sharing more truth out there and find our people, right? Like-minded people, free people, independent thinking people who've had enough of the bullshit. But anyway, let's zoom in on this guy one more time, and I'm gonna get out of here. And I'll show you where I am before it gets too dark. So I came from that direction, and then the road will wrap around that mountain in front of the grizzly bear. And these are some surrounding mountains, beautiful peaks surrounding this tight valley. It's a remote country road. And these big bears are coming down out of those alpine basins, coming out of their dens and streaming down into the valley bottom here to get fattened up again. So there we go. How cool is that? There you go. A lot of you guys probably never ever seen a wild grizzly bear. And that is one right there.